Hey, I'm Zach McDonald, your real estate agent with Real Property Associates, and this is my Snohomish County real estate market update for April 2025. What's up, Snohomish County? We are a fourth of the way through the year now, and we're well into the spring housing market. And just a reminder, as we go through this video, we're going to be looking at some of the data and the stats from the past month in Snohomish County. And as we get towards the end, I'll share some more recent data that we've been using where we look at what's happening more in real time as well. So we can see how last month was and also how this month is already going. And even as we're going through some crazy stock market fluctuations over the past week, we are still seeing the housing market in general trending in the same direction that we would have expected it to during the spring. And that is into a more competitive environment, into an environment with more and more listings coming on the market and relatively competitive versus what we might see later in the year. So as we look at the data from the past month, we're seeing what we would expect to see. We're seeing more listings coming on the market in Snohomish County. We're seeing a 20% jump year over year and a sizable jump month over month. We're also seeing more pending sales. We saw more pending sales this March than last March by 12.6%, and also a pretty big jump from the pending sales last month, which makes a lot of sense. We had more listings. If there's buyer activity, we're going to see more pending sales, and closings as well are up month over month, not as much year over year, barely. 3 more closings this March than last March. And February wasn't as active, right? We didn't have as many sales or pending sales in February, and it makes sense that we wouldn't have as many closed sales. But as we're looking at some of the data, we had 581 pending sales in February, and we had 574 closings. So most of those made it to the finish line, at least as far as this info is concerned. And the amount of pending sales is up more than 200 this month. So I'd expect to see more closings in Snohomish County next month when we're looking at this report. And we can see some other positives for the market here, at least as far as sellers are concerned, right? 27 days on market versus 31. So things are still selling faster, and that's continuing throughout the year. We are seeing slightly longer market times in general than we did last year. Last year, 20 days on market versus 27. So a little bit longer to sell, but faster than last month. So things are picking up in the Snohomish County market, at least as far as the timing goes. Now, median sales price, about the same. It's up a little bit month over month, only $6,250, but year over year, 3.5%. So not massive growth, similar to King County, but up a tiny bit month over month. Average sales price also up marginally from last month, up 3.9% year over year. And the competition level is slightly up from last month, but still not too crazy, more so in South Snohomish County than North Snohomish County. But we're seeing just over asking price 0.9% versus 0.4% last month. And last year was actually closer to 2%, right? So we saw a pretty big drop off there as far as the amount over asking price looking back at last year. And part of that's because last year we had even less inventory. So we were looking at, looks like about 67.8% jump in inventory, 844 available properties versus 503 this year versus last year. And the amount of inventory as far as the monthly supply numbers, 0.8 months versus 1.3. And so you would expect that when you have more available options, you're going to see less competition on all those options, which is what we saw in Snohomish County. And if we look month over month, we also saw the competition remain about the same. We did see inventory tick up slightly, but not significantly enough to change too much on the month over month basis. But if we look back at last year, it's definitely a little tighter inventory situation that we were dealing with in Snohomish County. So overall, things have been trending up in Snohomish County as the year has gone on so far. And we're in the middle of what would be a normal spring housing market, not a crazy spring market like we saw back in 2021 or 2022, but more of a normal spring market in the Seattle area. Let's transition and let's talk a little bit about the unpublished stats. I love these stats. We've been using them in the market watches on a weekly basis, and I think they're fun to incorporate here in these videos. And it gives us a little bit of a taste of what's happening in the current market. And we're seeing that over the last week and a half, right, was we're thinking, okay, what's happening? The stock market's been crazy. How's the housing market shifting? And it's nice to be able to give an answer a little bit more firmly here with the data, right? Data is important. So we're looking at median unpublished pending price, $790 over the last week. It's actually more than our median price for the month of March. So that's interesting data again, right, to share. It doesn't mean that the whole month is going to be more, but over the last 9 days, the beginning of the month, we're seeing that the prices are staying the same and slightly even up in Snohomish County. We're seeing still 100% of asking price for homes, not too much different than what the average was for all of March. And we're also seeing pretty similar numbers here. And I'll compare this with the last Market Watch data, just so you have some comparison for some of the multiple offer scenarios. So end of March, 43% with multiple offers, 33% with multiple offers over the past 9 days. Some of that is going to be just because there's more options, I think. 33% with inspection addendums, 38% with inspection addendums at the end of March. So we're seeing actually fewer sales with those addendums, but less with the multiple offers. Financing addendum, 72% in Snohomish County had one of those, 75% at the end of the month. So again, less people including the financing addendum, but marginally. And then escalation addendums, that's the kind of silent auction type of clause in the contract where you're paying over asking price or over what your offer price is. If there's competition, 12% this last 9 days since the beginning of the month, 17 at the end of the month. So we are seeing a little bit less on the above asking price. And that's kind of what I'm observing here. Less multiple offers, less people probably paying over asking price. We are seeing a little less pressure on the prices with more options, but we are still seeing a little bit more competitive offers overall with fewer contingencies in Snohomish County. So as I'm looking at this, I'm not seeing anything major or big shifts over the last week with all the stock market frenzy, I would say. And I think that we're still in the middle of the spring housing market here in Snohomish County. We are seeing, though, like I mentioned, more listings on the market. We're seeing the inventory levels building up earlier this year than last year. And 2 months of supply is usually the barometer. Once you start to hit that number, things start to slow down. And as we approach it, things start to slow down. So we're not quite there yet in Snohomish County. I think we got another month or so of the spring market here, but I do think it will start to slow down kind of end of May, beginning of June, maybe even a little bit earlier than it did over the past couple years. So just some quick thoughts as we wrap up this update. If you have questions about your situation, maybe you're thinking about selling or thinking about buying in Snohomish County, I'd love to be a resource for you, whether that's dropping a comment or giving me a call or shooting me an email. I'm happy to connect.